What is good, everybody out there? Thanks again for checking into another episode of Court Thoughts, the channel where we basically talk basketball. Today, I'm actually going to be spending a little bit of time talking about shoes. Yes. I had some people reach out to me, and they were new hoopers, and it was based off some comments that I made in a previous episode of Unplugged, where I was talking about shoes, and I was talking about some new shoes that I was getting into, and I wanted to take a moment just to sort of help those out there that are new hoopers just find the right shoe for themselves. So I'm going to give you 5 tips that I use to help try and find the right shoes for me, and hopefully they're going to help you on your process of finding the right shoe for you. Before I get into it, let me start off by showing you the shoe that I picked up today. So I actually picked up the LeBron Witness 6. This is a markdown of the LeBron range. Okay, check that bad boy out. All right. So before I get all hella fancy and start doing all this extra movement with all the shoe, I'm just gonna give you a run through. Just looking at it, pretty nice, pretty dope shoe. Honestly, super comfortable. But let me kick off and start off with my first tip. Tip number 1, understand your playstyle. If you understand your playstyle, it's really going to help you move into the next sort of range of tips I'm going to give you. It's not the end of the world, to be perfectly honest with you, so don't stress. But if you understand your playstyle, it is going to tell you a couple of different things about the technology you probably will need in your shoe. Now, you might be saying to yourself, I'm a new hooper, I don't know like my exact playing style. Just look at the type of players that you think that you play most like, or they play in a similar position to you and they do similar things to you, and use that as your gauge to help try and get shoes. Easiest way that I can put it, right? Let's say maybe you're a guard, you're a very shifty guard, and you have a lot of movement, like you got a lot of lateral movement. You definitely need to feel comfortable and secure in the shoe, but you're very shifty. There's a lot of weight shifting that's happening, and there's a lot of contact with the floor, pushing off of the floor, all that sort of stuff. Maybe you would be looking at someone like Kyrie Irving. You may even look at someone like Trae Young. Let's say like James Harden would be another one. Steph Curry is another big one. KD even. They're like sort of really simple sort of guys that you could look at. Maybe you are a little bit more of a wing player or a slasher, and you're cutting down in these angles. You're basically getting from the 45 or elbow sort of range of the court, and you're diving always to the bucket. That's your maneuver. Maybe you're a defensive weapon, and all you do is put the clamps on people, bro. That's all you do. Then maybe you want to be looking at someone like Kawhi Leonard. You might be looking at someone like Paul George, even KD as well. KD sort of sits in that bracket a little bit, but that's one. And then the next you might have is maybe someone a little bit bigger. Maybe you got that big body, yeah. Maybe you're a machine passer. Maybe you're about that up and down life, yeah. Maybe you are, like a little baby LeBron or a little baby Zion. Bruh. I don't know. Big ass baby. Just a big ass baby. Maybe that's what you are, big ass baby. Then you can look at those types of players and help you gauge. Or hyper athletic, you might be looking at like Russ Westbrook or Giannis, right? So understanding your playing style is just going to help you at looking at that player. And you can make a really simple analysis by looking down to their shoes, what type of shoes they wear. It's gonna really help you out. Super simple. Like I said, it's not the end of the world, especially if you are, I guess, a seasoned player. You've been around the game for a minute. This rule probably isn't too much of a big focal point for you. You could probably jump straight into tip number 2. On that point, tip number 2, know your needs. Man, this is where the magic happens, all right? Before I get into the needs, I need to help you understand the anatomy of a shoe. So Class is in session. I'm going to give you the 3 basic components that make up the anatomy of a shoe. All right. So number 1, you have the outsole. The outsole is essentially the rubber that is on the bottom of the shoe. Really, really simply, think of this like tire to a car. This is really going to give you your traction and where the most amount of the contact is made with the floor. In saying that, there's a couple basic things that you just need to consider, and that's just the traction pattern. If you look at this here, you can see it's got this sort of zigzag pattern, and you can see it's flaring out in different angles, so it's going up, it's going left to right as well, okay? As well as obviously going down, right? Because it's going up, it's a zigzag. Now, when we're talking about traction, the traction's job is basically to try and help slow you down when you make contact. So I'm going to use my hand as an example. Now, if there is vertical lines where all your traction, okay, it was just your whole traction was made up of vertical lines, there would essentially be little pieces of rubber that would be really handy if this was the court and you were sliding like this, because you're just gonna squeak all day, bro. Left to right, squeaking, bap, 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 hitting that squeak, because you're making contact and the shoe's got bite. That's what a lot of the time they'll call it. You know, it's got bite. It's basically making contact and stopping straight away. Now, if it's vertical, there's nothing stopping it from, if you were stopping, if you were like hitting a stutter step or something like that. So if it was trying to come like this, if your shoe is made up of those vertical lines, it's really, really not gonna have a lot of stopping power because it's all going in the direction. That's why when you have things like zigzags or herringbone, it does definitely help out when you're picking. Dude, honestly, I don't think that this is necessarily the make or break part of the shoe, but it's something that does have a tendency to make up a bit of a difference. A couple things that can help you out is the thickness of the grooves. So if you see in there, you can actually see that the grooves are pretty deep. Okay, which means that you're going to get a decent amount of wear, and you might even be able to play with them outside if you're an outdoor hooper. The other thing is the stiffness of that rubber. If the rubber like this is actually pretty stiff, there's like a little tiny like little bit of give. It kind of looks like just my fucking fingers moving, but I promise the rubber was moving. That means that the rubber's going to move when you move. So that can be a little bit more helpful when it comes down into that. The other thing that you'll have to take note of is the breakup of the sole. So we can actually see that there's this slit that's in there. That's just going to allow the sole to move a little bit, right? The next part that you have is your midsole. Your midsole is everything that's above, immediately directly above the outsole, okay? So we can see that we've got these airbags. We can see that we've got these like little bits of foam that's in there. On the other side, we got another airbag. We got some foam that's over here too. Look, dude, honestly, it basically comes down to 2 things that you need to understand, okay? There's different types of cushioning for different types of purposes. And to help me explain this, I'm gonna use the LeBron 17. So the LeBron 17 was one of my previous shoes that I wore. Now, this bad boy right here, we can actually see has got a giant, big, heavy set bag in the back. That bag is called an MX bag. It basically just compresses. That's all it does. So we can see here, I can actually squish it down. It's really nice, soft, very soft on the feet, right? Now, that there is really, really good for comfort. This isn't super responsive. The MX bag isn't super responsive. It'd be like trying to jump into a pool from a blow-up mattress. It's not really gonna do much. It's not gonna give you that propulsion, which takes me into my next thing where I'm talking about Nike Tech. We're gonna talk about Zoom Air. Zoom Air is actually in this shoe as well because we've got these pods that are in the front forefoot. So the forefoot is just the front part of the foot where your toe sort of section of your shoe is. Now, this easiest way to explain it, I'm probably not going to give you the most detailed analogy, but think of it like a lower profile airbag that's got a bunch of fibers that run vertical. When the pressure pushes down on it, basically it loads that energy and then allows you to spring forward. Other things that can help that out can be plates. So neither of these shoes that I've got have actually got decent shank plates for me to explain that. That's basically just going to help you with things like the rock of the shoe, like the actual propulsion of the shoe, but it's also going to be for things like torsional support. How much torsion or twisting does the shoe do, right? Midsole is all about cushioning. Whenever we're looking at the functions of the shoe, 9 out of 10 times, this is where the bulk of the money goes to when it comes to tech, okay? The next that you have is the upper. The upper is quite literally everything that's above the midsole. So everything that is above this, that's all this right here, all this material right here, that's all upper, my man. That's all it is. That's all upper. Basic purpose for this is for lockdown, so that's just going to help you feel secure in the shoe. It's also comfort. Now, you need to understand your needs. If you understand where your needs are, it's then going to help you with what technology you should probably be looking at. And look, if you ever get stuck, you can always, like I said, just look at the pros that you associated to you and see what shoe that they're wearing, and that might even help point you in the right direction. Before you wrap up and you sort of make that decision about all the technology that you need, you really need to understand how much money that you're going to be spending on your shoes. Now look, I'm not going to go through the whole wheelhouse of price ranges that are associated with shoes, but let me tell you this. Every company, essentially, that makes sporting goods generally has different price ranges for different shoes, so that way you, as a consumer, can get the right shoe for you. If you want to spend $250, $280, you can get a heavy set boy like this. If you don't have $250 that you don't have to spend on that, then you can get the step down models. And that's why they got step down models. At least I know for Nike, they do this. Nike and the Jordan brand, they do this. They have the top end model of the shoe. This isn't the same step down of this model, but you get what I'm saying. The top end model with all the bells and whistles, they take a couple of the bells and whistles down, and then they give you a $100 cheaper shoe. Literally it. Now, there's literally a step down model for Giannis. There's a step down model for KD. There's a step down model for Kyrie. Okay, that literally, those guys there plus LeBron, you got every single style of play. So I personally have a little bit of an affliction for Nike products. I primarily play in Nike products, and saying that, I've also played in Adidas products as well. And I just have a little bit more comfort in playing in Nike. But every single brand is the same. They all have cheaper versions of shoes that you can sort of get to fit within your budget. So make sure you understand your budget. It does definitely help. On that note, make sure you understand, like, if you understand your budget, just recognize that it's not necessarily going to make or break if you go out and buy a $250 shoe, man. Like, I've seen dudes rock up with all the gear and no game. Brand new LeBrons, sweatbands, like 10 sweatbands, 3 shooting sleeves, 5 knee pads, 7 headbands, and I didn't see them make one shot after 2.5 hours of running around. But it doesn't matter shit. I've seen dudes come up with shoes straight out of Kmart, pulling windmills out of their ass. So it doesn't necessarily matter. It's not going to make, honestly, it's not going to make the biggest difference in the way that you play. It's more so going to be about your comfort. Like, how comfortable are you? Tip number 3, understand a shoe, okay? If you are going to buy a shoe, like your boy just did, I wanted to understand what features were in the shoe. So when I went and got this shoe, I knew that there was airbags, because I can actually physically see them. But you might want to understand, well, is this little plate thing here, is this a design feature, or does this have some actual purpose? It does have a purpose. It's actually just a stabilizer. There's 2 on each end, and it's just to try and help minimize, if you imagine your foot's in here, that the wiggling from side to side when you're playing, which does happen, right? Understanding the actual technology of the shoe is then going to help you specifically see whether or not the shoe is right for you. So I'm going to take the comparison that I made with the previous players. If you are a guy who's hyper athletic, you're probably not gonna need the big boy airbag. Maybe you don't, because that's too heavy. This is too much weight that's weighing you down and you don't feel as responsive. So maybe you want something like Zoom Air to feel like you're propelling and giving you that propulsion moving forward, right? That might mean that maybe you're looking at a Why Not, or whatever the fuck Russ Westbrook calls his shoes. I think it's the Why Not, right? The Russell Westbrook shoe. You could also be looking at something like the Giannis, right? The Freak. I think it's the Freak 3 that it's up to now. It's got these two giant pod units, very similar to this. How this has got these two pods. It's got those two pods literally in that forefoot, and it's just got a bunch of Cushlon, which is just fancy name for foam. I think it's Cushlon throughout the rest of the shoe, which is just foam. When you are going through and trying to make your decisions, you really want to have a good understanding of the shoe. If you understand the technology that's going into it, you're then going to be able to make a clear-cut decision about whether or not it's working with you and it's meeting your needs. I would definitely say knowing your needs and understanding the shoe, those two things like literally go hand in hand. If they're going to marry up, you want to marry those two pieces of information up. So have a really good understanding about what your needs are and understand the technology of the shoe, and really early on you're pretty much going to be able to say yay or nay. When you're understanding the shoe, the other thing that I want to point out is some shoes are targeted, like I mentioned earlier, they're targeted towards a specific type of player, but you also have really well-rounded shoes. And I'll give you an example of that. You take the Jordan, the last couple of Jordans that have come out, they are not targeted at a specific type of player. They're not targeted at a guard. They're not targeted at a big man. They're not targeted at a mid player, like a wing player or anyone like that. They're literally just a basketball shoe with a bunch of technology in it, and it's about whether or not it's right for you. They also do have a step down with the Jordan, which is called the Jumpman. And I think it's, again, another $100 cheaper than what it normally is as a top flight Jordan shoe. But you don't necessarily, like, if you're unsure, you can always go for something that's a little bit ambiguous and all over the place, very general, and see if it works for you. It's really the bit of a struggle when it does come into getting shoes is, well, first time that you're sort of spending money on things, or if you're new to the game of basketball, you don't know what you need, you're just going to have to try them on and see what they feel like. Now that actually takes me into my next point. Tip number 4, watch reviews. There is literally a shit ton, a proverbial shit ton of channels on YouTube that do product reviews on footwear products. My 3 guys that I will literally use, I primarily use 2, but the 3 guys that I will check out if I'm trying to look at a product of a shoe is, you have Foot Dr. Zach. Foot Dr. Zach is a new channel that I've stumbled across, and it's a guy who actually plays tennis. He is a podiatrist, and he basically takes a shoe, cuts it in half, and then will tell you 3 reasons to buy it or 3 reasons why not to buy it. And now look, the one thing that I will say that I've actually heard him say before on his channel as well is the reasons to get a shoe might also be the same reasons not to get a shoe for another person. It is not the absolute end of the world. You just need to see what your needs are and help marry it up. So Foot Dr. Zach, really good location to go and check out product reviews. And he's recently started doing hooping shoes. So really good, really good. And to get a doctor's perspective of, like, a podiatrist's perspective of, like, why this technology works in a certain way and how it's beneficial and blah, 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 right? The other person that I'll go through and check out is the Soul Brothers channel. The Soul Brothers channel is literally a guy. It's one dude, can't remember his name, but homeboy basically gets a shoe. He's actually done reviews on this shoe. I watched his review of this shoe, and they'll basically put the shoe on and they'll break down different things that they like about the shoe, that they don't like about the shoe. And look, at the end of the day, like everything, you got to take it with a grain of salt and be a grown-ass adult and make your own decision. You might not necessarily have the same problems or concerns with that person when they're wearing a shoe, and what they get out of the shoe might be super different, but they're going to give you a bunch of different things that you can look at. Soul Brothers is a really good one. My number one go-to whenever I'm looking at shoe tech and I'm trying to understand a review of a shoe or trying to make a decision about a shoe, the number one resource that I use is Wear Testers. Wear Testers actually have their own website, which is weartesters.com. I don't actually use it. I just know it's there because I watch the channel a bunch. But I'm normally actually going on and checking out Chris from Wear Testers reviews on YouTube. Honestly, really good content. I would highly suggest, if you are into sneakers, go and give him a like and subscribe, because he actually does a whole bunch of stuff on basketball shoes and like it gives you a little bit of a history about that particular shoe. So it's actually really cool, but he does really good reviews on different shoes and does a lot of high def quality visuals on the shoes. So if you're trying to get some close look at some details, he's the type of person you want to be checking out. More often than not, customers have the availability to go online and actually put a review of the shoe after they buy it, and they have all this criteria that they use to try and help them give the most accurate review. And look, again, take it with a grain of salt, but you can go online and check out, read the reviews, see if it helps steer you in the right direction of the shoe. Again, though, you can't really do it if you're not really got some sort of an idea about what your needs are. So, but it can definitely be a starting point. I will generally watch the reviews as well to kind of see, oh, well, there's this shoe. What's that look like? And then I'll look into the technology and all that sort of stuff. So you can sometimes kill two birds with one stone in understanding the shoe and watching the reviews at the same time if you use those resources I mentioned earlier. My fifth and final tip that I want to share with you guys. And guys, this is a biggie. Try them on. It's not that hard. Try them on. It's literally the simplest thing that I can say. The amount of people I know that have gone out and just blindly bought shoes, taken them back, putting them on, worn them for a game or two and be like, these shoes are trash. And you're like, well, didn't you know that they were trash when you put them on? And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but you're not playing in the store. Yeah, absolutely. But you can get a general gist when you're putting the shoe on in the store about what it feels like. Does it feel right? Does it feel weird? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Blah, blah, blah. And you can then generally use the technology that you understand from reading the reviews about the shoes and doing your research on the shoes about whether or not it actually works with what you're needing. When you try the shoe on, the other thing that I want to point out is if you wear ankle guards, if you have any specific socks that you wear, like if you wear those Nike Elite socks, the thickened basketball socks, or anything like that, whatever you do when you play basketball, bring it like with you. Like what I mean is like socks and ankle guards. Like don't come dressed ready to play a game, because that's just kind of weird. Unless you're literally going to go play a game, then I guess it's not weird. Whatever, you get my point, right? Like, just go and try the shoe on. Now, the other thing is when I'm picking a shoe, something that I really try to focus on is I don't want to recognize that I'm wearing the shoe. That to me is the telltale sign that I'm happy with the shoe. I'll give you a perfect example. This bad boy right here. I haven't actually worn it a tremendous amount. I've played in it. I have actually played in it. I've had a bunch of training sessions in it. I would say that I've probably worn it anywhere between 20 to 25 times, right? Actually, not all that much, right? When you think about how much you probably get out of a shoe, right? The thing that I didn't like about it was the fact that the sole is so thick and these pods at the bottom are really, really pronounced. And it made me feel quite unstable when I was standing on the court wearing these shoes. Now, could I tell that when I put them on and tried them on? Absolutely. Did I think that it was going to be a problem? No. And is it really a problem for me? Probably not the biggest problem. Like I literally wore them like 3 days ago to go and play in. And they're not the worst shoe in the world. They're great. But I do feel certain aspects of the shoe that remind me that I'm wearing the shoe. Now, why am I making a big deal about this? Why am I making a big deal? Well, it's really simple. If I can feel different things on the shoe, then I'm focusing on what's on my foot, not what's on the court. Really simple. I don't try to distract myself any more than what I am distracted with what's happening on the court. If I can wear a shoe and not recognize that I'm wearing the shoe and I just feel comfortable, that's perfectly fine. That also goes the same as if the comfort of the shoe is not there and I'm feeling uncomfortable, then I'm gonna recognize that I'm uncomfortable. That's where I'm trying to find that sweet spot. Do I not feel the shoe where it's not causing me any pain or discomfort? Or is there not a bunch of shit that's happening on my foot that I then feel like it's weird and it's bringing my attention? So look, it might sound a little bit strange, but that's really something that I find that makes a big sort of final tick of approval when it comes to me making my final decision. And the other thing is as well, even if you want a specific color and they don't have that color at your shoe store, let's say you go to Foot Locker. I bought these bad boys here from Rebel. If you go to Foot Locker and you're like, I want to try the new Freak 3 out, and they're like, great, and they bring out the fluoro highlighter orange joints with the green strap, you might be like, I don't want to try those on. Well, you know what? Tough. Try them on. You can always buy the color online, generally speaking. If you're looking for a specific shoe and they don't have that particular color in store, I'll generally won't give a shit. I've actually tried the shoe on, never seen the actual color that I liked in person, only seen it online and then just bought them online. But honestly, dude, just try them on. They're probably the most important part, I would say, to like picking up a shoe, is just trying them on. All right, guys, look, that's pretty much going to wrap up today's episode. I do hope that my 5 tips do help you in trying to find your next shoe for you when it comes to basketball. And I am definitely hoping to do more content similar to this in the future for all the new hoopers out there. Things that you maybe just don't know and wanted to understand, or something that you're confused about. If you have any questions, jump in the comments, let me know. I will literally go in and I will answer your comment to the best of my abilities with any questions that you have about things that maybe didn't make sense. Or if you got a really detailed question and you want to ask me, go ahead and send me an email. My email is courtthoughts@gmail.com, and I will answer any question to the best of my ability to try and help you that I might not have covered off as well as possible in this video. On that note, if you want to follow your boy and you want to see what I'm up to, you can go ahead and check out my socials. My socials are just at the top there. Additionally, if you want to see what the algorithm has got in store for you, click on this button right here, get to that bad boy that YouTube thinks is right for you. Or alternatively, you can show some support to the channel by subscribing, and just got to hit this button right here. Again, thank you so much for your time, guys. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Until next time. Peace. Shh.